Thomas Mason, a man of reserved demeanor and quiet disposition, found himself entangled in a web of mystery one fateful night. It was a midnight like any other in the small town of Ravenswood, where the hushed whispers of the wind seemed to carry secrets, and the moon cast eerie shadows on the cobblestone streets. Thomas, an insomniac by nature, often took solitary rides on his vintage motorcycle to calm the restlessness within. That night, however, was different. A cryptic letter arrived earlier in the evening, slipped under his door with no return address. The message was concise but chilling. Midnight ride or dire consequences. Curiosity mingled with trepidation. Thomas found himself gearing up for a ride into the unknown. The ominous message played in his mind as he kick-started the motorcycle, its engine echoing through the silent streets. The dim glow of the streetlights flickered as if hesitant to reveal the secrets they held. As he rode into the outskirts of Ravenswood, the landscape transformed into an eerie tableau. The moon cast an otherworldly pallor upon the trees, and the dense fog obscured the path ahead. Thomas, undeterred by the unsettling atmosphere, pressed on. His thoughts raced, trying to decipher the meaning behind the enigmatic summons. The journey led him to the outskirts of an ancient cemetery, where the headstones stood like silent sentinels, bearing witness to centuries of secrets. At the heart of the graveyard, a hooded figure emerged from the shadows. A chill ran down Thomas's spine as recognition dawned. A figure from his past, someone he thought was buried deep within the recesses of memory. Thomas. The figure spoke, the voice carrying the weight of forgotten sins. Your past has caught up with you. Tonight, you ride not only to escape but to confront the choices that have haunted you. The figure vanished into the mist, leaving Thomas grappling with the ghosts of his own making. The midnight ride, it seemed, was a journey into the heart of his own darkness. Shaken but resolute, Thomas retraced his path through the cemetery, haunted by the echoes of the past. The night air seemed to thicken with each passing moment, and the shadows clung to him like accusing specters. He couldn't shake the feeling that the cryptic midnight ride was a reckoning for sins long forgotten. The winding roads led him to the outskirts of Ravenswood, where an abandoned mansion loomed like a relic from a forgotten era. The letter's veiled threats began to make sense as Thomas stepped into the decaying grandeur. The air inside was heavy with the scent of age and abandonment, and the creaking floorboards seemed to protest the intrusion. A dim light flickered in a room at the end of the hallway, drawing Thomas closer. As he pushed open the door, the room revealed itself as a study frozen in time. Dust-covered books lined the shelves, and faded photographs adorned the walls. In the center of the room, a desk held a weathered journal. As Thomas flipped through its pages, he uncovered a narrative of betrayal, deceit, and a past he had desperately tried to bury. The hooded figure from the cemetery, it seemed, was a manifestation of his own guilt, a specter sent to force him to confront the consequences of his actions. Each page turned was a revelation, unraveling a tale of broken trust and misplaced loyalty. The figures from Thomas's past, long thought to be shadows, were resurrected in the pages of the journal. As the truth unfolded, the weight of remorse settled upon him. Determined to atone for his sins, Thomas emerged from the mansion, ready to face the consequences of his past. The midnight ride, it turned out, was not an escape but a journey inward, a confrontation with the ghosts that lurked within. The night, still and unforgiving, held the promise of redemption as Thomas rode back to Ravenswood, guided by the pale glow of dawn on the horizon. The first light of dawn began to break as Thomas navigated the winding roads back to Ravenswood. The town, now awakening from its nocturnal slumber, seemed to cast judgmental glances upon him. The weight of the revelations pressed upon his conscience, and the echoes of the past reverberated in his mind. As Thomas reached the heart of Ravenswood, he noticed a congregation of townsfolk gathered in the central square. Whispers and hushed conversations ceased as he approached, and all eyes turned to him with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. The midnight ride had not gone unnoticed, and the small community awaited an explanation. The town elder, a wise but stern figure, stepped forward, addressing Thomas with a gaze that bore into his soul. "Thomas Mason, your midnight ride has brought forth the shadows of the past. Speak the truth, for Ravenswood demands answers." Gulping down the lump in his throat, Thomas began to unravel the tale woven through the journal he found in the abandoned mansion. He spoke of betrayals, shattered loyalties, and the consequences that had haunted him. The revelations hung in the air like a heavy fog, settling over the onlookers. The town, initially skeptical, felt the sincerity in Thomas's words. As the sun climbed higher, bathing the square in its golden glow, a collective decision emerged. Ravenswood, a place of tight-knit community, acknowledged that redemption was a journey best undertaken together. The townsfolk, once distant, stepped forward to share their own burdens and secrets. The revelations created an unspoken bond among them, a pact to confront the ghosts of the past and build a future unburdened by deception. As the day unfolded, Thomas found himself not only on a personal quest for redemption, but also a catalyst for change in Ravenswood. The townspeople, no longer confined by the shackles of hidden truths, worked together to heal old wounds and forge a stronger, more transparent community. In the fading light of that transformative day, Thomas reflected on the unexpected turn of events. The midnight ride, initially a cryptic summons, had become a journey of self-discovery and communal redemption. Ravenswood, once shrouded in secrets, now stood as a testament to the resilience of those willing to face the darkness within and emerge into the light. Rick gazed out of his office window. The city below bathed in the eerie glow of the streetlights. It was midnight, and most of the world was asleep. But for Rick, the night was just beginning. As a private investigator, Rick's job was to uncover the truths that others preferred to keep hidden. Tonight, he found himself entangled in a web of mysteries that seemed to converge on a single address: 13 Blackthorn Street. It was a place whispered about in hushed tones, a house with a history shrouded in darkness. Rick's phone buzzed, breaking the silence of his dimly lit office. The message was cryptic, a single line that sent shivers down his spine. "The truth awaits at 13 Blackthorn Street. Midnight. Don't be late." Driven by a mix of curiosity and professional duty, Rick found himself standing outside the ominous address as the clock struck 12. The moon hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that danced with the rustling leaves. He hesitated for a moment before opening the creaking gate and stepping onto the path leading to the foreboding mansion. The air grew colder with each step, and the distant howl of a lone wolf added to the unease that gripped Rick's senses. The front door swung open with a ghostly creak, as if welcoming him to the mysteries that lay within. Rick took a deep breath, his heart pounding, and entered the darkness. Inside, the grand foyer was adorned with antique furniture and dimly lit chandeliers. The silence was palpable, broken only by the faint echoes of his footsteps on the cold marble floor. As Rick ascended the grand staircase, he felt the weight of the past pressing down on him. The corridor on the second floor seemed to stretch endlessly, lined with portraits that stared at him with eyes that followed his every move. At the end of the hall, a single door stood ajar, revealing the dimly lit room. Rick pushed it open and stepped inside, finding himself in a study adorned with dusty books and aged furniture. A figure shrouded in shadows sat behind an antique desk. "Rick, you've come," a voice, low and haunting, spoke from the darkness. The figure emerged, revealing a face that Rick hadn't expected. An old friend he thought was long gone. The room seemed to close in around Rick as he stared at the once presumed dead friend, Daniel. "Daniel, how?" Rick stammered, struggling to make sense of the surreal encounter. Daniel's eyes bore the weight of untold stories. "There are truths, Rick, buried deeper than the darkest secrets. I need your help to uncover them," he implored, urgency in his voice. As Daniel began recounting a tale of betrayal, corruption, and a family cursed by a past they couldn't escape. Rick felt the shadows of the room closing in. The Blackthorn family, the owners of the mansion, were entwined with a secret society that wielded influence from the shadows. Rick's investigative instincts kicked in, and he agreed to help Daniel unveil the truth that haunted the walls of 13 Blackthorn Street. The first clue led them to an old cemetery on the outskirts of town, where the Blackthorn family crypt held the key to a generations-old mystery. As they delved deeper into the crypt, whispers of the family's dark pact echoed through the narrow passages. Each step unraveled the layers of a twisted tale that spanned decades, involving power, betrayal, and a forbidden love that had consequences still felt in the present. The crypt revealed a hidden chamber, its walls adorned with cryptic symbols. A flickering candle illuminated an ancient diary that spoke of a curse passed down through the Blackthorn bloodline. The truth was a bitter pill, and Rick couldn't escape the feeling that the shadows around them were alive with the ghosts of the past. Armed with newfound knowledge, Rick and Daniel raced against time to expose the secrets that had plagued the Blackthorn family. As the clock struck 3 a.m., the darkest hour, they confronted the current head of the family, Victoria Blackthorn, who harbored the final piece of the puzzle. In a climactic confrontation, the truth was laid bare, and the curse that had gripped the family for generations was broken. The mansion seemed to sigh with relief, its walls no longer haunted by the weight of secrets. As dawn approached, Rick stood outside 13 Blackthorn Street, the first rays of sunlight dispelling the shadows that clung to the night. The mysteries were unraveled, and a chapter of darkness closed. But as Rick walked away, he couldn't shake the feeling that some secrets were meant to stay buried, waiting for the next midnight rider to unveil the truth. Weeks passed, and the events at 13 Blackthorn Street lingered in Rick's mind. The days were filled with the routine of his investigative work, but the nights were haunted by the echoes of the past. Despite the resolution of the mansion, there was an unsettling feeling that not all had been revealed. Late one evening, Rick received an anonymous letter. The familiar cursive writing sent shivers down his spine. "Meet me at the old Oakwood Inn. Midnight. There's more to this story," it read. The letter provided coordinates, and Rick couldn't resist the pull of the unfinished tale. As the clock neared midnight, Rick stood outside the Oakwood Inn, its time-worn facade masked by the darkness. The wind whispered through the ancient trees, and the air was thick with anticipation. Rick entered the dimly lit lobby, where the concierge handed him an ornate key with no room number. Upstairs, a single door beckoned, and Rick hesitated before turning the key in the lock. The room was bathed in a cold blue light emanating from an antique mirror. His reflection seemed to blur with the shadows, and the air felt charged with an otherworldly presence. A figure materialized in the mirror, and Rick's breath caught in his throat. It was a woman, ethereal and haunting, with eyes that mirrored the secrets of 13 Blackthorn Street. "The Blackthorn legacy runs deeper than you know," she spoke, her voice a haunting melody. She revealed herself as Isabella, a forgotten Blackthorn, banished from the family for a love deemed forbidden. Isabella's spirit had lingered, bound by the curse that had tormented the Blackthorns. The missing link, the unresolved chord in the symphony of secrets. As Isabella unraveled the final chapters of the Blackthorn saga, Rick realized the intricate tapestry of pain, sacrifice, and redemption woven through generations. The truth was a mosaic of human frailty and resilience, and the curse that had bound the family was a reflection of the choices made in the name of power and tradition. With a solemn gaze, Isabella faded from the mirror, leaving Rick alone in the room. The weight of the revelation settled upon him, and he knew he held the key to liberate the Blackthorn family from the lingering shadows of the past. Armed with the newfound knowledge, Rick embarked on a quest to reunite the fractured Blackthorn family and break the final remnants of the curse. The journey took him to forgotten corners of the world, where long-lost relatives emerged from the shadows. In a climactic reunion, the Blackthorns faced the ghosts of their ancestors, and through shared revelations and forgiveness, shattered the chains that bound them. As the curse lifted, The old mansion at 13 Blackthorn Street seemed to sigh with relief, its walls finally free from the shackles of the past. Rick stood outside the restored mansion, the sun rising on a new day. The shadows had dissipated, and the air was filled with a sense of closure. The midnight ride, which had begun as a cryptic summons, had evolved into a journey of redemption and healing. As Rick walked away from 13 Blackthorn Street, he knew that the tale of that haunted night would linger in his memory, a reminder that sometimes the search for truth led not only to darkness, but also to the light that awaited on the other side.